It's maximum alert time, Commanders Nation. 3 crises exploding simultaneously, and your feed hasn't even covered half of it. First threat, the player who could throw all the team's effort overboard with a single missed kick. Second, the quarterback, who played preseason like it was the Super Bowl, genius or suicidal madness. And third, the $150 million financial bomb that's got the star receiver on the edge of leaving. These aren't separate news stories. It's a domino trap. If the kicker fails, the QB will have to take more risks. If the receiver leaves, the QB loses a key weapon. And if it all blows up, goodbye playoffs. But here's the scoop nobody has. The kicker and the receiver share a toxic bond that the organization is hiding. How long until it all collapses? Subscribe now and find out in the next 8 minutes how this triple threat could steal the season from DC Like and Subscribe All. Miss out on the analysis that'll change your view of the team. Let me tell you something nobody is talking about but has me more worried than anything else on this team. Matt Gay might be our Achilles heel this season. And no, I'm not exaggerating or being dramatic. After digging deep into his situation, I have info that will completely change your perspective. Look, after 2 preseason games, this man has attempted only 3 field goals. 3. Think about that for a moment. We are 2 weeks away from the start of the regular season, and our kicker has had exactly 3 chances to show what he's made of. Do you think that's enough preparation for a player who got the largest guaranteed money in a 1-year deal in NFL kicker history? But here's what really has me worried. In the first game against New England, Gay missed a 49-yard field. I'll go. Now, 49 yards isn't an impossible distance for an NFL kicker. In fact, most kickers in the league make at least 70% of their attempts from that distance. Gay has a career percentage of 85.5%, which is respectable, but that miss against New England doesn't sit well with me. And you know why? Because as I analyze his career, I see concerning patterns. In 2023 with the Indianapolis Colts, Gay had one of his worst seasons, converting only 25 of 32 field goals, 78.1%, which is below his career average. This was the reason Indianapolis didn't renew his contract, leaving him available on the market. Against Cincinnati, he only kicked a chip shot of 27 yards and converted 2 of 2 in extra points. The bright side is he didn't miss anything, but as the report says, that means very little. It would have been concerning if he'd missed from that distance. The fact that he didn't is just the basic expectation. I'll tell you this. The Commanders paid him that amount not just for stability, but because they desperately needed someone reliable after the constant issues with Zane Gonzalez last season. Do you remember how many points we lost due to missed kicks? Do you remember those games decided by a field goal we couldn't convert? But here's the reality nobody wants to face. The kicker position is the most volatile in professional football. As the report states, the difference between a good kicker and a bad one is extremely small. The variation in their performance from year to year or even week to week is completely random. And you know what's the scariest thing about all this? Matt Gay comes from winning a Super Bowl with the Rams in 2021, where he was perfect in the playoffs. But that was 3 years ago. Since then, he has had significant ups and downs. In 2022 with Tampa Bay, he converted 32 of 39 field goals, 82.1%. In 2023 with Indianapolis, as I mentioned, he had problems. Now let me ask you this. Do you trust a kicker who hasn't had enough practice in pressure situations during preseason to be ready for crucial moments in the regular season, especially considering we'll be in many close games this year? Think of it this way. Jaden Daniels will get us into scoring positions. Terry McLaurin will make spectacular plays. Our defense will keep us in games. But at the end of the day, if Matt Gay can't hit the field goals when we need them most, all that effort will be for nothing. And here's my biggest concern. Dan Quinn and his coaching staff aren't giving him enough opportunities to practice in real game situations. They're being too conservative with him in preseason, and that could cost us dearly when September arrives. How many games did we lose last season due to kicking problems? And how many could we lose this season if Gay doesn't find his rhythm quickly? I believe this situation is more critical than anyone wants to admit. Because in a division as competitive as the NFC East, every point counts. The best way to maximize the kicker's performance is with maximum preparation possible. As the report states, Gay hasn't had that preparation, And frankly, I wonder if the organization is underestimating how important this position will be for our success. But now, let's talk about something that does have me completely excited and optimistic about the future of this franchise. The absolute champion mentality that Jaden Daniels is showing. This young man gave us a masterclass in what it means to have the heart of a true competitor, and I think that play against Cincinnati tells us more about him than all the stats in the world. Let me paint you the full scene. We're at Northwest Stadium. It's Monday night. We've got Cincinnati visiting, and everyone is waiting to see what our second-year quarterback can do. Daniels goes on the field early in the game, and in just 4 plays, he reminded us why he's the future not only of this franchise, but one of the most promising quarterbacks in the entire league. The specific play, Daniels is under pressure, sees an opportunity to run towards the end zone, and doesn't hesitate for even a microsecond. He runs 14 yards, dodges defenders like a veteran running back, and reaches the end zone to tie the game. But here's the important part. He didn't slide. He didn't play it safe. He didn't protect his body like many quarterbacks do in preseason. And do you know what he said when asked why he took that risk? "You clear my car. I wanted to score." That's simple. That 3-word response tells me everything I need to know about this young man's mentality. I'll tell you this. After years, and I'm talking about years, of watching quarterbacks in Washington who played scared, who settled for the easy, who made conservative decisions that cost us games, we finally have someone who thinks like a true winner. But let's analyze this more deeply. Daniels comes off a rookie season where he totaled more than 4,200 combined yards between passing and rushing. Those are elite numbers for any quarterback, but especially for a rookie. He had 25 combined touchdowns and only 9 interceptions. His rushing numbers were particularly impressive, 764 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns. But the stats don't tell the whole story. What we saw last season was a quarterback who wasn't afraid to take calculated risks, who extended plays when necessary, who could win games with both his arm and his legs. And now, in that play against Cincinnati, we saw the mental evolution. We saw a quarterback who understands that in the NFL, especially in critical moments, you have to be willing to put your body on the line to win games. Do you think this is a coincidence? I think Dan Quinn is building an entirely different culture here. A culture where we don't accept mediocrity. A culture where players are rewarded for making smart risks and playing with passion. Look at what the report says about the coaching. Staff's reaction. The Washington Coaching Committee praised Daniels for his determination and athletic ability, emphasizing his ability to make plays under pressure. That's no accident. Quinn and his staff are sending a clear message. We want players competing at the highest level on every play. Now, let me ask you, when was the last time we saw a Commanders quarterback run toward contact instead of avoiding it? When was the last time we saw that "I'm going to do whatever it takes to win this game" mentality? That 14-yard run was completely symbolic. It was Daniels telling us, his teammates, the organization, and the entire league, "I came here to win, not to participate. I don't care if it's preseason, regular season, or playoffs. When I see a scoring opportunity, I'm going to take it." And here's something that excites me even more. The connection he's building with Terry McLaurin. Even though Terry wasn't on the field during that specific play, Daniels showed optimism during the ESPN broadcast when he talked about the contract situation, saying he knew McLaurin would be back soon. That confidence, that calmness, Daniels shows when talking about his teammates, tells me this young man understands that leadership goes beyond making plays on the field. He understands that part of being a quarterback is keeping the team together during tough times. But let's get back to that competitive mentality. Daniels comes from LSU, where he won the Heisman Trophy and led the Tigers to a national championship. He knows what it feels like to win at the highest level. And more importantly, he knows what it takes mentally to win at the highest level. That play against Cincinnati, that decision to run toward the end zone instead of sliding, reminds me of some of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. It reminds me of Aaron Rodgers in his prime. It reminds me of Russell Wilson in his prime with Seattle. It reminds me of Josh Allen when he takes those calculated risks that electrify his team. The reality is that even though we lost that game 31-17, and even though we went 0-2 in the preseason, nobody is talking about the loss. Everybody is talking about that play by Daniels. Everybody is talking about his mindset. And that, my friends, is true leadership. And now we come to the most explosive and complicated news of all. Terry McLaurin supposedly wants more money than the $150 million for 5 years that Pittsburgh gave DK Metcalf. More than the contract that made Metcalf one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL. But before you start criticizing Terry, let me explain why this situation is much more complex than it seems on the surface. And why, after analyzing all the numbers and available information, I believe both Terry and the organization have valid points. Let's start with the facts. Terry McLaurin has been our #1 receiver since he joined the league in 2019. Since 2019? This man has been loyal to this organization during some of the toughest years in the modern history of the franchise. He has played with quarterbacks like Dwayne Haskins, Taylor Heinicke, Carson Wentz, and finally found perfect chemistry with Jaden Daniels. Now look at these numbers from last season as reported by Nikki Jabvala. Terry had the second highest number of receiving touchdowns in the entire NFL, only behind Jamar Chase's 17. Second in the entire league. That's not a fluke. That's consistent excellence. But there's more. He ranked third in additional expected points on targets and 7th in catch percentage among receivers with at least 100 targets. Those are elite numbers of a receiver who's in the conversation of the best in the league. However, here comes the complicated part. His total receiving yards, 1,096, ranked 12th among that same group. And his average, yards after the catch, ranked 25th. What does this mean? Terry is being extremely efficient in his scoring zone, but maybe not generating the explosive yards other elite receivers are producing. Now, does this diminish his value? I'd argue not. Do you know why? Because Terry McLaurin has shown he's completely reliable in the most critical moments. He's proven he can be the #1 target for a rookie quarterback and help him develop into a real threat. But here comes the financial reality nobody wants to face. Terry will turn 30 in September. Metcalf will be 28 in December. In the NFL business, those 2 years are an eternity. Teams pay for future production, not just past production. And here's the other factor. According to the report, the Commanders are apparently willing to go up to a max of $27 to $28 million per year for McLaurin. If Terry is asking for more than Metcalf's $30 million annually, we're talking about a difference that could be $3 to $5 million per year. Multiplied by 5 years, that's $15 to $25 million total difference. Is that difference worth it for a receiver turning 30? That's the question Adam Peters has to answer. But let me give you my perspective. Terry McLaurin deserves to be paid as one of the best receivers in the league. He's been loyal, he's been productive, he's been professional, and he's been the anchor of our offense during tough years. More importantly, he's developed a special chemistry with Jaden Daniels that can't be easily replaced. However, I also understand the organization's position. They have to manage a salary cap. They have to think about the long-term future. They have to ensure they can keep Jaden Daniels, sign other key players, and build a complete and competitive team. And do you know what's most frustrating about this whole situation? While we discuss money and contracts, teams like Dallas with CeeDee Lamb, Philadelphia with A.J. Brown, and New York with their acquisitions are gearing up to compete. We can't afford to lose our #1 receiver, but we also can't mortgage our financial future. Here's my take on what's really happening. Terry knows this is probably his last chance to get a massive contract. He knows that after 30, teams are much more cautious with long contracts for receivers. So he's using all his leverage, including the trade threat he made on July 31st, to get the best contract possible. On the other hand, Adam Peters is trying to be fiscally responsible while building a long-term team around Jaden Daniels. He knows Terry's important, but he also knows he can't allow a single player to consume too much cap space. The question is, can he find a middle ground that satisfies both parties? I think the solution is in the contract structure, not necessarily in the total money. Maybe less guaranteed money, but more performance-based incentives. Maybe a shorter contract with an extension option. Maybe specific bonuses for playoffs and performance in critical moments. But here's what worries me. If this situation drags on until the start of the season, it's going to become a massive distraction. It's going to affect the team's chemistry. It's going to put unnecessary pressure on Jaden Daniels, who has already publicly shown optimism about the situation. So there you have it. Competitiveness that inspires, uncertainty that worries, and negotiations that could change everything. These 3 news pieces show us exactly where we are as an organization, and more importantly, where we're headed. Final analysis after this breakdown. We have a quarterback who thinks and acts like a champion, which is the most important thing any NFL franchise can have. We have a kicker who needs more opportunities to prove his worth before it's too late. And we have our best receiver in a contract situation that requires creativity and commitment from both sides. Do you think Adam Peters can solve these issues before the season starts on September 7th against New York? Or will we enter the regular season with more questions than answers? But here's my prediction. I believe Terry McLaurin will sign before the season starts. I think he will accept something in the range of 28 to 29 million per year, with a structure that allows him to earn more through incentives. Why? Because at the end of the day, Terry knows his best chance to win a Super Bowl is here with Jaden Daniels right now. I think Matt Gay will use the last preseason game to prove he's ready, and if he doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised to see the organization bring in competition or look for alternatives. And I think Jaden Daniels will continue showing that winning mentality we saw against Cincinnati and will become one of the most respected leaders in the entire league. Does Terry McLaurin deserve to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL considering his age and production? Will Matt Gay be the hero who leads us to victory in close games, or the villain who costs us crucial points? And what do you think of that absolutely fierce mentality Jaden Daniels is showing? I want you to tell me in the comments which of these 3 situations worries you the most, which excites you the most, and what you think will happen in the next 2 weeks before the season starts. Because this discussion is just beginning. And if this deep analysis gave you a completely different perspective on these Commanders, if it helped you understand the complexities of each situation, then I need you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because this is our Burgundy and Gold family, and in this family, we discuss everything with passion, knowledge, and the brutal honesty these topics deserve. Tomorrow we'll have more explosive news, more analysis that goes beyond the surface, and more of the truth that other channels don't dare to say. You can't miss what's coming because August is just beginning and we already have enough drama, excitement, and crucial decisions for the entire season. Because at the end of the day, these are our Commanders, this is our season, and we deserve to know the whole truth about what's happening with our team.